learns from the lesson. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then you feel it's a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
All right, what's going on, YouTube? Today, we are going to demonstrate a hard landing versus a soft landing, and we're going to use the G-Wagon. Yes, it's going to be crazy. We're going to go like 160, no brakes, and we're going to see what we learned from Jerome Powell, baby. And if you'd like an update on this shirt, this is not an Abercrombie shirt. This is an Eddie Bauer shirt. My mom got it for me for Christmas. I kind of like it, but it's kind of confusing. Okay, but let's get to the video. All right, Chad, I'm just playing with you. That's a joke. Do not try that at home, okay? But I do have a watch list for you, but we are going to talk a lot about the Fed because tomorrow you have Jerome Powell twice, and what he will say tomorrow, it could possibly confirm the path of rate hikes. And, well, that's what I want to talk about. So what we're going to go over, we're going to start with hard landing versus soft landing. Then we're going to talk about the 1993 through pretty much 2000 expansion. And then we are going to talk about how that relates to today and then the possible scenarios of what we might see. So I'm really excited about this video because you are going to get something that you can apply towards tomorrow. But then for the next 6 Fed meetings for the rest of the year, this is also going to apply as well. And I think we're going to be able to understand some things. So let's start with hard landing versus soft landing. But before I do that, where's my stream alerts? Let me just go over the plays with you so you can see what we did today. And I know some of you, I know what you want. It's okay. I got you, baby. But first one, I sold out of that Morgan Stanley. That was a graveyard, came back to life, got 70 cents. We added Netflix to the long-term portfolio. I added more. Remember, I grabbed some on the big account yesterday after hours. Well, I bought more today, lowered the average, and we put it on every account. Then I sold out of the MasterCard pre-earnings play, 118%. Then we sold out of that Tesla pre-earnings play, again, almost 100% on that one. Then I grabbed Rite Aid shares because of their like buyout rejection news. I got clapped on that. And then I did Twitter April 29th calls for just the tender offer, or just kind of a Twitter gamble more or less with everything going on. So those were the main plays. Again, we're just going to be writing a lot of the earnings pre and post. Tesla, they killed it. I'm sure that's going to be a good one post earnings after the premium crush. So let's see what happens. But now let us start. What is a hard landing? Again, you've probably heard this. You've even heard the Fed say this. You've probably heard a lot of people on the television and the financial channels say all of this. Hard landing versus soft landing. And even the Fed says they want a soft landing. Well, what is it? That's why the joke with the car should, be funny. This is actually an aviation term, and it's used to describe how to land. So here's an Investopedia. They say the term hard landing comes from aviation, where it refers to the kind of high-speed landing that, while not an actual crash, is a source of stress as well as potential damage in industry. The metaphor is used for high-flying economies that run into a sudden sharp check on their growth, such as monetary policy intervention meant to curb inflation. Well, there you go. So let's go down a little bit and you'll see a hard landing could be contrasted to a soft landing, which is considered to be a more desirable goal for economic policymakers. To achieve a soft landing, government officials and central banks will gradually reduce expansionary fiscal and monetary policy. So kind of makes sense. You've heard this. I mean, pretty much, would you rather have somebody break the news to you soft or hard? Would you rather find out, I don't know, would you rather get in a big car accident or a small one? Would you rather just have someone break up to you without any sign or warning, or they kind of hint at it? I don't know, but you could kind of get the idea. Just imagine if the plane was coming down, you could understand how you would want to land it softer rather than harder, but the plane has to come down. Again, this is a big economic concept. This is where it starts, but this isn't the most important thing. But you need to understand this because now this is the big debate with Fed policy. Why do people care about the Fed futures? Why do they care about Powell or anything going on? Because they're saying, hey, we got a lot of inflation, and if they want to curb this, there's no way you could curb it without getting a hard landing and affecting a lot of things and causing a lot of injury. They're saying that a soft landing is impossible, but let's go to James Bullard and even the rest of the Fed, even Jerome Powell himself. They think that they could do a soft landing. It is very hard, but it has happened before in history. So that's why we're going to go to 1993 and 94. But now watch this clip. It's a little boring. It's like 1 minute long, but you could see Bullard, even though he's the most hawkish, he is the one who's been advocating this for a couple months. He keeps bringing up the 1990s. So listen to what he says, and then we're going to go through the history, and hopefully we could explain it, and then we are going to cover really what we think will happen. So here's the clip.
Yeah, more than 50 basis points is not my base case at this point. I would point out that the 1994 cycle where we raised the policy rate 300 basis points in a year, first of all, that one was successful and did set up the US economy for a stellar second half of the 1990s, one of the best periods in US macroeconomic history, so it was successful. And in that cycle, there was a 75 basis point increase at one point. So I wouldn't rule it out, but it's not my base case here. And I would stress, as I did in my opening statement, that the market pricing is doing some of the work for the Fed for it. So what we really need to do is just ratify the promised increases in the funds rate that we've already got out there that are partially priced into markets. And so there isn't as much need to surprise as there may have been in 94 when the Fed had less credibility on its 2% inflation target.
So this clip was from the other day. Remember, we were talking about him saying 0.75. That's what he was referring to. And again, 300 basis point raise in that year. That's pretty much what, I think 6 double rate hikes. But he starts talking about 1993, 1994. That's how they engineered a soft landing, raised the rates rapidly, and the economy didn't crash, or you didn't get any of those negative effects from a quote-unquote hard landing. So let's talk about this now, and I want you to see some of the key differences. So you can see here, December 1993, it's at 3%. February, they raise a quarter point to 3.25. Then March, they go 3.5, and then April, they go up another quarter point. But then between April and May, 3.75 to 0.25. Well, that is a double rate hike right there. They did a double rate hike, and then they kept the rates the same for another month. Then they did another double rate hike, and then after that in November, they did that triple rate hike, which he was referring to. So this one's very interesting, right? Because this is a period where you see them, and eventually they actually start cutting the rates. I believe by 1995, they rose from 3 all the way to 6, and then they actually cut back a little bit, and then we're able to go. But the economy was good. But now here's the number one question everybody brings up. Well, what was inflation back then? How does this relate? And this is where I think it gets interesting now. And we're going to jump over here so you could see it. What was the inflation back then? So remember, 70s, crazy inflation. It would shoot up, come down, and then go back up. But now, as we get here to the 90s, just don't forget, this is coming off of inflation. It was 70s to 80s. That was crazy. And then 80s to 90s was interesting, but inflation was kind of high. You can see as we get into 92 or 93, it was around like 3%, 2.7, a little bit earlier. It was at like 3.8, which was kind of high. So the only difference is, and when you actually look at this, even from the 80s and the 70s and any of the rate cycle policy, they were able to have a soft landing, but inflation was a lot lower. Pretty much this was coming off of the back end of inflation, not the beginning. So pretty much, in my opinion now, it seems like Bullard thinks we're going to pull off the 1990 style, but I think we're still at this first wave, if anything, and it might not cut out, but you could see the differences. This is what I think the Fed is going to be hanging on to. And now let's talk about the main point here. The most important thing that we need to answer is, how is the Fed going to try to replicate this, or how will they go about it? So now with Powell tomorrow, that's important, but now keep this in mind. You only have 6 more Fed meetings by the end of the year. So why is this important? Because if you come to the Fed futures here in December, you see that they are pricing in 2.5. This is the Fed futures. We've talked about the market pricing it in. So they're literally saying, based on the futures, that the Fed funds rate, the Fed is going to raise all the way to 2.5% by December. So that's a very interesting one, because right now, still to this day, we are at 0.25%. So if you have 6 meetings, how in the world are you going to get to 2.5%? There's really only a couple of options. And now, given the scenario, given history, only a couple of things could happen. Remember, one rate hike, a normal one, that is 0.25%. A double rate hike is 0.5 and a triple would be 0.75. So let's see a couple of these scenarios right now. The base case, or this isn't their base case, but this is the bare minimum. If you raise the minimum at every single live meeting towards the end of the year to December, that would be 0.25%, 6 times. That would get you about 1.5%. Add that to the current 2.5 that we have here, you are left with 1.75. That means the Fed would not make it. So literally the Fed could do this, and that means the market is wrong. And if they don't do this, then, I mean, who knows? But they wouldn't be able to meet that objective or goal. The next scenario would be a double hike at every meeting. So 6 more rate hikes and 0.5 each time. That would give you 3%. Add that to the current quarter, you are going to be left with 3.25. That's above, and depending on what the situation and market price is in, maybe that one could be good. Or now let's take a look at another one. What if they raise double every other meeting? So this meeting, they go up 0.5, then they go unchanged in June. I put UNC for unchanged. I like UNC. I don't know. Unchanged in June, then they go 0.5 in July, don't do anything in September, then 0.5 in November, and then do nothing in December. Why am I bringing this up? Because they did this in the past. Like you saw in the 1990s, they did the double hikes, and then they waited for a little bit, and then they started ratcheting it up a little bit more. So if you did all of that, though, that would get us about 1.75 total, because that would only still be 3 double rate hikes. Add to the quarter, you still wouldn't make it. So what are the other scenarios? We could raise the minimum until midterm. And this one I think is very compelling, because you can see they could actually accomplish this. Just imagine with me again, November, midterm elections, a lot of politics. There's a lot of history behind the stock market in midterms, but pretty much if they raise the minimum all the way until November, that would be 4 rate hikes in November. That would be 1% added, and then 2 double rate hikes pretty much November and December. That would be another percent, and that would leave you with 2.25. Or if they did 1 double and 1 triple at the end of the year after midterms, then we would be at 2.5. So that one really caught my eye. I think that one is really important. And then the final one, this is just what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to do a double rate hike in May and June, and that right there is going to take us to 1.25 with the current rate. Then they're going to wait in July. Then I think they'll do a single in September. Or maybe they may reverse this and do a single then double, but maybe they'll do this in September, and then November and December they'll double depending on where things are at. But I think this would allow them to do some more double hikes, wait a little bit. But the point I'm trying to say is we are pretty much going to get a double hike very, very soon. So why this is important, because tomorrow Powell is going to solidify whether or not he's going to do that. He's going to try to lead into the meeting, but either way, we will wait till May. But do you guys see what I'm saying here now? Is that every single meeting from here on out, every single action that's taken, it is going to wind down the amount of available opportunities that they could do. Again, they have a limited amount of tools. They could go a quarter, a double, a single. They could mess with the balance sheet and all that, but then there's only 6 meetings. Then you could only do so much, and then we have little stuff like the midterms. It's pretty crazy. But now why this is important, if you understand this now, you could tie this into the Fed futures. You could tie this into what the Fed is going to do, and really, we're going to see what happens. And as things get into the end of the year, I'm sure this video and this outline of what the Fed's going to do, it's probably going to give us a lot more color. So I hope you're ready. But that is pretty much it. Tomorrow is Powell. Don't forget it. We'll see you on stream. We already went over the plays there. Again, I'm only going for the pre-earnings or the post-earnings plays. Get ready for next week with Google, Microsoft, and everybody else. But should be a good one. I love you, Chad. I'll see you there in the morning. And shout out to Twitch gang too, baby. God bless you. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate, healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shine. I need you to remember, baby, it's all about the mindset. Trouble is opportunity, baby. You make it what you want it to. Come on, baby. I love you. Goodbye. I'm still awkward. I'll see you on Twitch. God bless you.